all, it's your boy John Atala, and I'm really excited to present this series, the Big Boi Basics. And the series is just going to be the essentials for bodybuilding, for weightlifting to put on muscle. So I'm going to have a ton of videos in the series. It's probably going to take me like a half a year to put out completely, maybe a little more. I'm going to try to do an episode each week, and it's all going to stack onto each other. And then at the end of the series, I'm just going to make one giant long video, a giant playlist, so you have literally everything you need for the basics to getting into weightlifting, to putting on muscle, and this will be the complete guide. So please be patient with me as this series comes out, but I'm really excited to present it. And yes, I did make Canva slides, but I think this will be a good, fun format for this video series, and I will be doing other series along with it. So the intro to this series, I want to explain the why for weightlifting, the why for bodybuilding and putting on muscle. So disclaimer for this series before I get into it, almost every rule can be broken besides a few basic fundamentals. So you can bend weightlifting to how you want it for your own preferences, and this series is going to be filled with my own biases, my own training styles that I personally enjoy. So don't take my word as the end all be all. Like in other videos, you need to account for yourself when it comes to these things. So don't take this as the, must all be all guide, and I could be contradicted a million times, but this guide will still work for a lot of people. But if you don't enjoy it, you don't enjoy it, and that's okay. But I think this will help a lot of you out there if you give it a shot. And also keep in mind, a lot of these concepts will be simplified throughout these series. So I'm not going to go terribly in depth. I just really want to give a lot of general overviews as to not confuse a lot of beginners, but there's always more nuance if you want to explore that. So to get into weightlifting, you need to have your why. The importance of the why is very important because this is a thing you will do for years if you want serious results without drugs. So what will keep you coming back for years on end? For me, it was just another activity I needed since I stopped playing sports and I had a lot of fun, but you need your own why. Why do you want to do this? Is it because, let's say you're a parent and you want to pick up your kid without being out of breath? Do you want to be old and just still have good health? Find your why. Are you doing this for others so you can be healthy for your family and hopefully be an influence? Identify your why and every day write down that why or look at it. It's going to help you keep motivated in the beginning stages when you're like, I don't want to hit my workout today. It's super important to have this in mind, and this is a really good first step to keep you coming back and being consistent. So I will share with you some of my whys besides, this is something I personally enjoy. Point number one is to prevent sarcopenia, if I even said that right. And this is basically just the loss of muscle mass over time. So over the years, you will lose 3 to 5% per decade. Now that does not sound like a lot, but by like the time you're 80, you'll lose 40% of your muscle mass if you don't do anything. So that's a ton. So in our early years, I find it really important just to put on as much muscle as you can naturally. Because let's say we don't even enjoy this and we pick up like running or something else, you will still have so much more muscle to have when you're older, which decreases, your chances of being fragile. You can still pick up stuff in old age and really adds to our longevity. I mean, my grandpa's still lifting at 92, which is absolutely nuts. He benches, still he leg presses. So he's really an inspiration just to keep this thing going as a lifelong habit. Now, this is the most important statistic of the John Atala Institute of Research. It's a really interesting correlation that 100% of sexy people actually lift weights. Muscle mass is really good for men. Ladies get nice and toned. So it's no coincidence that if you lift weights, there's a much higher chance you'll become sexy. So we can't downplay that looks is a lot of motivation for a lot of people in weightlifting. I mean, it's definitely part of mine. It's not my main focus, but I mean, it's a lot of fun to look better and feel better. So if this is one of your whys, that's perfectly fine. It's definitely one of my whys, and this is a 100% accurate statistic. Now, I did have this in another video, but with muscle mass, you burn more calories, and it makes it a lot easier to keep off weight. So imagine you're a 130-pound man and you walk a mile. You're only going to burn around 180 calories to one of these crappy online calculators I found. But if you have muscle mass, and don't think 50 pounds is unreasonable. I mean, I used to weigh 130, let's say like 8th grade, and then you hit your growth spurt. 150 was my normal. Now I'm close to 190. So even then, that's 40 pounds with like 5 years of training. So it's very possible. But with all this muscle mass, let's say with a mile, I burn around 250 calories of just walking. With more muscle mass, you have more muscle tissue, so you're going to burn a lot more calories with your everyday activities, making it easier to keep off weight, especially when we have much more sedentary lifestyles in the 21st century. So building muscle mass is a great way to combat gaining extra weight in the 21st century, which is essential for so many people considering most of our population is overweight. I think this is one of the best investments of your time for passive income later on, so you can burn weight while you're not exercising. Number 3, for one of my whys, it increases your mental health. Your mental health improves. Weightlifting reduces anxiety, improves your cognition, decreases depression. I mean, movement does this in general, but weightlifting is the only one that will really add to your sexy points. So if you're gonna choose a type of movement, it will improve your mood and your cognitive function. But for me, I might as well do one that'll do that and then add to my sexy points. Now, a note at the bottom, you cannot walk a mile a day and they'll be like, why do I not feel better? You cannot be sedentary. I know you may think you walked a mile, but that's not enough. Our bodies were really meant to move for a majority of the day. We were meant to run, catch things, hike, chase down prey. And then we think an hour walking and then the rest of the day on the couch is acceptable. That's not acceptable. You cannot expect to feel better if you're not really putting in the time to movement. Walking throughout the day and then a weightlifting regimen can really improve your mood drastically, because as humans, we were meant to move. Now, another reason I really enjoy weightlifting is because it's actually fun compared to other activities. As you can see by the John and Tala Research Institute, 90% of runners actually hate running and they're just masochists. They just don't like themselves, and then that's why they run. And only 10% of weightlifters actually hate the activity. And it's often because they're following terrible advice from other really bad YouTube channels, and I won't name names, but that's the reason they hate weightlifting. It makes you buff, it makes you feel better, you get bigger, stronger. There's really no reason not to like it. Running, you exhaust yourself and it's a bad time. This is a fun activity for majority people, and I guarantee a lot of really great people go to gyms, even if they seem intimidating. Usually the biggest guys or girls are really nice people. It's a great community as well. And then an inspiring quote from Yoda: "Those who lift weights will bear the peaches of the world." And that's it for episode 1, guys. Next episode, I'll go over into the muscle building foundations. Now, if you've watched my channel, it's really basic stuff I've gone over. Later in the series, we're going to get into more detailed things. But for the continuity of this series, I really do have to include this video so we cannot forget the most fundamental basics for how to put on muscle and really become a big boy. Looking forward to talking to everyone in the comments, and if you're enjoying the series so far, please consider liking and subscribing. Peace.